Which is larger, 5/8 or 7/12? If the denominators were the same, then the question would be quite easy. We would just pick the fraction with the larger numerator. But here the denominators are different. So what we're going to do is we're going to change to equivalent fractions with the same denominators. So in other words, find the common denominator. Here we have 8 and 12. All right, we'll start with the larger denominator. 8 doesn't go into 12, so 12 is not going to be our common denominator. So let's look at 12 times 2. 12 times 2 is 24, and 8 goes into 24. So 24 will be our common denominator. Okay. All right, so 5/8 change to fraction with denominator 24. Well, 8 times 3 is 24, so multiply the numerator by 3 as well. And so 5/8 is equal to 15 over 24. And now 7/12. Change to a fraction with denominator 24. 12 times 2 is 24, so let's multiply the numerator by 2. 7 times 2 is 14. So now we're comparing 15 over 24 and 14 over 24, and obviously 15 over 24 is the larger one. Okay, because 15 is larger than 14. So there's our larger fraction. So that's the same as 5/8. So 5/8 is the larger fraction. Number 2 says that Karen painted 2/5 of her room on Monday and another 3/7 on Tuesday. What part of the room did she complete? So we just want to add 2/5 plus 3/7. And in order to add, we need a common denominator, 5, 7. So let's start with 7. And if we keep multiplying 7 times 1, okay, 7. 5 doesn't go into 7. 7 times 2 is 14. Also not. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times 4, 28. And finally, 7 times 5 is 35. 35 is the common denominator. 5 goes into 35. So we had to, in this case, we had to take the least common denominator that was the product of the two denominators. 5 times 7 is 35. Okay, so let's get equivalent fractions. 5 goes into 35 7 times, so we have to multiply 7 times 5 to get 35. So multiply the numerator by 7 as well. We have 14. We have to multiply this denominator by 5 to get 35, so multiply the numerator as well. So we have 15. Okay, so we're just adding those numerators, 14 and 15, and we have 29. So that is the part of the room that was completed. 29/35 completed. Number 3 says Dale bought 5/8 yard of cotton fabric and 3 2/3 yards of wool and 5 1/6 yards of denim. What is the total length of fabrics purchased? So we're adding 5/8 plus 3 2/3 plus 5 1/6. Let's get common denominator. And so here we have a denominator of 8, 3, and 6. So we'll start with the largest one, the 8. 8 times 1 is 8, and 3 doesn't go into 8. 8 times 2 is 16, and again, 3 doesn't go into 16, neither does 6. That's 8 times 3 is 24. And that's okay. 3 goes into 24 and 6 goes into 24. So 24 will be our common denominator. So let's rewrite our fractions with a denominator of 24. So we have to multiply 8 times 3 to get 24. So multiply numerator and denominator by 3. So here we have 15 in the numerator. We have to multiply 3 times 8 to get 24. So multiply numerator and denominator, and we get a 16 in this numerator. And here we have to multiply 6 times 4 to get 24. So we have a 4 in this numerator. All right, and now we're going to add, sometimes we line these up vertically, but we don't have to. So in this case, let's add the whole numbers. 5 and 3 is 8. The first fraction doesn't have a whole part, and now we'll add the numerators of these fractions. So 15 and 16, that's 31, and 31 and 4 is 35. So we have 35 over 24. Now, this is an improper fraction, numerator larger than the denominator. This 35 is actually 11 more than 24. Okay, so this is 35 is 24 plus 11. So what we actually have here is we have 8, and then we have 24 over 24. That's from this 24, and then another 11 over 24. That's what this actually is equal to. This is equal to 1. So we'll combine this one with the whole part, with the 8. So the whole part is really 9, and the fraction part is 11 over 24. So 9 and 11 over 24, and the units are yards of fabric. Number 4, we want to find the average. So we're going to add and divide by 3. So first let's add. Here we have 11, and 5 is 16. Here we have 9, and 7 is 16, and another 9 is 25. And now we have 3 grades, so we're going to divide by 3. Three is in 25, goes into 25 8 times. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 goes into 16 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15. Remainder 1. So if we want to write the average as a mixed number, then we take the remainder and we put it on top of the 3, on top of the divisor. So that's 85 and 1/3. And that's the average. In number 5, we have 4 fractions, and we want to find the largest. So we're going to concentrate on 2 at a time. So let's start with the first 2. And for a common denominator in this type of problem, we could just multiply the 2 denominators together. So that's what we'll do here. We'll just multiply them together. So here we have 132. We have to multiply 11 times 12 to get 132. So multiply the numerator by 12. We have to multiply 12 times 11 to get 132. So multiply that numerator also. So once we do that, we see that this is the larger fraction. So that would be 7 over 12 is the larger fraction. So let's just cross this one out, and let's compare 7 over 12. And now compare with the next one, 15 over 26. And again, we're just going to multiply those 2 denominators together. And I'll tell you something, you don't even have to really do the multiplication. You could just write them out next to one another. Because we're not going to really use this number. It's really the numerators that we're comparing. So the denominator we multiplied by 26. So we'll multiply the numerator by 26. And this denominator we multiplied by 12. So we'll multiply the numerator by 12. Okay, so here we have 182 in this numerator. 26 times 7 And here in the second numerator, we have 180, so they're close, but this one's larger because the numerator is larger, so 7 over 12 is the larger one. All right, so I'm going to cross this one out. So now we're left with 7 over 12 and 7 over 16, and we're going to compare those two. Now you might right away realize that 7 over 12 is the larger one, only because the denominator is smaller. So these represent smaller parts. 1/16 is a smaller part than 1/12. 1/12 is a larger part of a whole. So this would be larger. But let's use our method. Okay, so we're going to get a common denominator, 12 times 16, and I'm not going to bother multiplying these. All right, so here I'm multiplying top and bottom by 16, and here by 12. Okay, here we have 112. And here we have 84. So obviously this is the larger one. 112 is bigger than 84. So 7 over 12 is the larger fraction. So let's cross this off. So this is the only one remaining, and this is the largest.